Earlier this year, we conducted the largest ever joint exercises with the United States. I'm talking about the Balikatan exercises. They were complex, they were multifaceted, and most importantly, there were discussions of deployment of state-of-the-art weapon systems, the so-called Typhoon missile systems. What is the implication of this, not only for the Philippines' national security and deterrence, but also more importantly, or just as importantly, US-China competition and the future of the Taiwan conflict? And not to mention, what is the Philippines' strategy to best protect its interests, not only in the West Philippine Sea, but also vis-a-vis Taiwan? After all, this is now an integrated theater of operation, as many experts put it. In order to understand where does the AFP stand, how important these Balikatan exercises are, what is the state of our security cooperation with the US, and where it could go over the coming years under a second Trump presidency, we have a very special guest. Thank you, General, for joining us. Congratulations on your promotions.
Thank you very much. Some people say it's long overdue.
Long overdue, yeah.
Long overdue. But for me, after so many years of punching above my weight,
Yes.
I practically see no difference.
Right.
In fact, it hasn't even hit me yet on how being called a general actually affects me. I think it's getting used to actually.
I think the weight and the punch are finally aligned.
Yeah, the weight of the punch.
Are
Yeah,
aligning, yeah.
yeah, absolutely.
There's a lot to discuss. Obviously, I wanted to also take credit, probably because you guested on our shows a lot. That may have helped your promotion process. No, I'm just kidding. We don't want to put you in
Well,
trouble.
I'm not gonna debate on that.
Yes.
It's probably true.
It helps. It helps. Thank you so much, General, for giving your time. There's so much to discuss since last time we talked. Last time we talked was just before the Balikatan exercises, and
Yes, that's
that
correct.
was the biggest ever by far. Just to do a recap,
Okay.
since you're a regular on our show and we're very happy to have you, can you give us an idea of how big and important the Balikatan exercises earlier this year was, and what are we going to look forward to next year? Because you're still going to be in charge of Balikatan, right,
Yes,
General? Yeah.
the SND has not relieved me of my duties in Balikatan. Just to get back to your question. Okay, so this year's Balikatan, it's not last year's, it's still this year.
Right.
That was an exercise that surpassed our expectations. Okay. But this year's Balikatan and next year's Balikatan are closely linked together.
Right.
It's a two-stage training. It's a two-stage exercise process, wherein this year we did the planning, and next year we will execute what we planned.
Is this
for.
the first time this happens? Kind of a two-part series to
Actually, we started doing this as early as if I can recall right, we did this as early as 2021. Two-stage process for Balikatan, because we found out that to execute an exercise within a 2-week window is not enough.
It's not enough.
It's not enough because part of it is the planning and the other part of it is the execution. So in order for us to maximize our training objectives, and then when I say we, that means both the Philippine, the AFP, and our U.S. Armed Forces counterparts, we both agreed that we are going to stagger the exercise into 2 phases. One for the planning, and the other one for execution. So that's what we have. So this year's Balikatan and next year's Balikatan are going to be closely linked together.
Right. So they're two sides of the same coin. Now, yes, you talked about planning, execution, but a lot of execution happened earlier this year,
Yes.
right? Yeah.
Yes. Naturally, we do not do away with the field training exercise.
Right.
So what we have in terms of the field training exercise is still closely related to the plan, or has certain vignettes
Right.
that look like the actual plan. But this next Balikatan, we are going to tie them in together to make sure that at the operational level of war, we're going to have planners who take part in both the planning and the execution.
Right. Obviously, we don't want to give away all the operational details for our friends, but
Yes.
But we discussed. I remember last time we discussed just before Balikatan that there could be exercises clearly with respect to not only West Philippine Sea but also Taiwan. From what we understand, there were exercises off Cagayan's waters,
Yes.
and also the one in the West Philippines was interesting because the French were also involved this time,
Yes,
right? Can you, to the degree again that you can share with us, what was the significance and what was the nature of those exercises? What does it say?
Okay,
Where are we
so
going? Yeah.
so first the exercises up north,
Cagayan.
Cagayan, and the exercises in the west, we designed it that way in order for us to validate certain questions on whether we can
Right.
actually execute major operations in two separate areas at the same time, given our assets.
Right.
Okay, and how are we going to merge together the battle spaces of both the Northern Luzon Command and the Western Command in such a way that we treat both areas as one whole battle
Integrated
space,
theater, yeah.
integrated battle space.
Yeah.
And the only way for us to do that is to elevate the command and control at the level of the AFP, the highest level.
Yeah.
So it is a test not only of the unified commands, but also for the entire AFP as a whole. Okay, so that's the reason why we had the two. Your second question was about the French Navy. Okay.
Yes, that was
The-
interesting.
As early as 2023, the French uh, have already expressed their desire to take part in the exercise
Right.
Balikatan. And this happened at the ministerial level. So as soon as we were already brought into the intent, we had meetings already with French officers, and then we worked out a way to integrate the French into the exercise. Okay. So right now last time we integrated them through the multilateral maritime exercise,
Right.
what we used to call the group sail. So we had the French frigate, the Vendémiaire, join us in the
Their flagship
Yes,
in this part of the world. Yeah.
it's a frigate, it's a French frigate,
Yeah.
to join us in maritime exercises. So they took part in division tactics, resupply at sea, search and rescue, cross-deck landing qualifications, and vessel boarding, search and seashore exercises. The normal
Yeah.
stuff that goes on in a Navy
Naval
exercise.
drill, yeah.
Yes. So this year, we are intending to expand that.
Right.
The French will still be there, definitely. And then we will also have the Australian Defense Force, the ADF, and also the Japanese Self-Defense Force, the JSDF. And aside from that, we are also getting expressions of intent coming from the countries like Canada and South Korea.
Interesting.
Yes. So we are very excited about what's going to happen in 2025.
And yeah, I mean, speaking of, I mean, I was just in New Zealand early this year. They were also wanting to have their reciprocal access agreement with us, the French. And so this is not just US and Philippines anymore, right?
No, yeah.
More and more countries are invested in this and see the value of what we're doing.
Yes. Actually, I'm looking at Balikatan as a way forward towards more multinational or multilateral action. Okay. You see, Balikatan right now is still considered a bilateral exercise. See, it's supposed to be just between us and the United States. But for a long time, we've always
Japan
had
and Australia.
yes. But for a long time, we've always had the ADF and the JSDF
Yeah.
joining us in the exercise, either in certain capacities as observers or as response cells for the exercise, or providing us additional capabilities, enabling capabilities to
Right.
execute the exercise. So that involvement, we are looking at it. We are looking at expanding that involvement to include having them actually participate in the exercise themselves. So naturally, that's the progression. You start as sending observers, and then after sending observers, those observers will go back and inform their leadership about the benefits of the exercise, which will engage them to send more participation into the
Right.
exercise.
I mean, it's not cheap. It's complicated. You might make sure that you might want to make sure it's worth it. The British last year sent for the
Oh
first
yes,
time
I
also
forgot to mention.
observers.
Yes, I forgot to,
Yeah, the
I forgot to
British.
mention the UK is also going
Yes.
to send the participants in the exercise.
Right, which also said and President Marcos Jr. himself attended or at least made observations during the exercises. Right,
He not
Is-
only observed the exercise, he was part of the exercise.
Interesting.
Yes, yes.
Wow.
We designed the exercise in a way where executive decisions could be made by the president and involve him in the decision chain to to execute or to prosecute a target in
Yeah.
the water. Yes. And actually, the president was very much impressed by the exercise. He openly said that he didn't realize how complicated this entire
Yeah.
process was. You know, even me, because not only did he witness it for the first time, we were actually doing this for the first time.
With his sitting head of state. Yeah.
Yes, I've been to several exercises throughout my career, and I've gone from tactical level exercises to operational level, combined arms, and then doing joint exercise. This year's exercise was by far the most complicated thing we've ever done. So we're not only dealing with joint capabilities from the Army, the Navy, the Air Force, but you're doing this with another country.
Right.
And then you have two separate planning processes together, and then how are you going to meet at a common process
Yep.
and in a way that both of us understand. Well, it's a good thing we speak the same language. So that's a good thing that that we have going for us, you know. And at the end of the day, I think the president has full appreciation of what is actually going on. If the day comes that we have to fight together,
Yeah.
this is the way we're going to fight.
And it's important that even the heads of state signal to the rest of the world, including some of our friends, that we're preparing for the worst. So do not think we're going to be just push over. I want to expand later in the discussion to the region and other players, but nevertheless, U.S. is such a central player for us as our
Yes,
sole
yes.
treaty ally and still a military superpower. And speaking of military superpower, one of the things that also made this Balikatan, not only in terms of the size, the scale, the complexities and sophistication, not to mention the attendance of President Marcos, all of those things made it really unprecedented. But the other one was the deployment, I don't know how to put it correctly, of the AKA Typhoon missile
the
system.
MRC. Yes.
MRC,
The mul-
MRC,
the
Medium range,
medium range capability.
medium range capability missile system. What is the relevance of that? Because I noticed there was a lot of obfuscation around what was going on. I mean, the Chinese obviously, made all sorts of drama around it, and initially, some said, "Oh, it's no longer in the country, or it's kind of in the country, but only for transfer logistical exercises." But last time I checked, it looks like our leadership is more than happy to host it as long as it can, and some of the satellite imagery suggests it's in my home province, right, in the Ilocos region, right? So again, I know that you cannot give operational details among others. You cannot confirm
Yeah,
or
I
deny.
won't.
But to the degree that you can say anything on this, how important is the MRC to our national deterrence?
Yes, well, to put it in proper context, the MRC was brought in through Exercise Balikatan primarily as a validation of concept. We wanted to know whether it was actually logistically feasible to bring in this weapon
So
system.
it's a proof of concept kind of
Yes,
situation.
yes, absolutely.
Yeah.
If it was logistically feasible to bring this weapon system into the country and to find out its own limitations. Okay, so we have taken note of the possibilities and where are the possible locations that we can bring this in. And you have to understand the MRC, this type of weapon system, it's not exactly new. The SM-6 is a missile that normally fires on board a U.S. ship. Okay, so this technology has been around,
Right.
and the SM-6 has a maximum range of 300 nautical miles. Okay, it's okay for me to say this because it's in open source.
Yeah, it's already
an
public
open source
information.
knowledge,
Yeah.
right. But the U.S. has found a way
To
to take that out of the ship
yeah.
and make it a land-based weapon.
Right.
Okay, so
So surface to surface now.
yes, it's still a surface-to-surface weapon,
Right.
and still has the same range, but now can be launched on land.
From land based. Yeah.
Okay, and since you're launching it on land, it's still mobile.
Right.
It's still mobile. You can still shoot and scoot, okay, given certain limitations. But the important thing is we've incorporated it into the exercise. It is we've already validated some of our logistical RFIs, and on the U.S. side, they're looking for ways also to refine the doctrine of its use and
Right.
and also to improve
Because it's
on.
the first time it's
Yes.
deployed to this part of the world. So
Yes.
we're really in an
Yes,
interesting,
absolutely. So
uncharted territory.
from
Yeah.
a training perspective,
Yeah.
things like this are it's not unusual. Okay,
Mhm.
when you deploy a weapon system, even if even if you don't fire it, there is still some training value
Right.
that comes out of it. Okay, and of course, I will not discount that it also has some strategic implications.
Chilling effect.
Yes,
It's
yes,
like-
strategic implications, and it's I would call it inseparable
right.
from the actual training itself.
Let's talk about that. Obviously, China made so much noise around
Mm.
it for the past 5 or 6 months. And it kind of reminds me of reactions of Russia when there were the Patriot missile and all supposed deployment to Poland, for instance.
Yes.
Now, this issue is gaining more traction precisely because we know that China, in an event of all-out war over Taiwan or with U.S. for any matter in this part of the world, a lot of that will come down to China's usage of its anti-cruise ballistic missile systems, all the Daifeng missiles, DF missile systems, and all of that. One understanding from the outside is that if America manages to create an arc of missile systems, very advanced
yes.
missile systems, Guam, southern Japan, northern Philippines,
Yes.
that could significantly nullify China's capability to
Yes,
leverage its
absolutely.
geography.
Yes, absolutely. You want?
Is
you want-
that all you can say?
Well, let's just say that if you have an ace up your sleeve,
Yep.
okay, you don't throw it away. You know, you don't just throw it away.
Right.
You keep that ace, because obviously this is something that China is apprehensive over. They're losing sleep over this.
Yeah.
You know, and that means that if you give it up, then what other ace do you have? You see, of course, I'm not going to reveal the other aces.
Yes,
but
exactly. Yeah,
I'm
yeah,
not
yeah.
going to reveal the other aces, but this should keep China guessing.
I heard, I don't know if it were you, but some supposed anonymous official said, if China's having nightmares over it, let it be. Essentially, like,
Yeah, you know, I have developed a certain operational hack
yeah,
over the years.
Yeah.
If whatever it is that you're doing that annoys or
The right
it
people.
keeps your adversary on the edge.
Yeah.
Whatever it is that you're doing, you're on the right track.
you're on the right
You
track.
keep on doing it, because if whatever it is you're doing that has no effect on your adversary, you're just wasting your time.
So, what about the argument of a former president? I think everyone knows what I'm talking about, and some of the, more China sympathetic elements that
Oh, yes.
you're unnecessarily provoking China.
That's what China wants you to believe.
Mm,
You know, that's what China wants you to believe. That is the narrative that they send, not by themselves, but through people who are
proxies.
related to them in terms of ideology,
Right.
or people who are sympathetic to them.
Right.
So that is the narrative that they want you to believe. So you have to take those comments with a grain of salt, because if China was really provoked, then why are they still doing ICAD activities? They should have gone full kinetic by now.
Yeah.
Yeah, but they haven't, and we are calling their bluff, because that's how you deal with them. That's how you deal with these ICAD activities. You basically call your bluff. You're basically telling them, this does not work. This does not work, and it's not going to work anymore. If it worked in the past, it's not going to work anymore,
Right.
because we don't buy into your narrative anymore.
And to what degree did the THAAD missile drama also a few years ago, when China made a lot of noise about South Korea hosting the American THAAD missile. Did that at all play into the Philippines
No,
calculations?
because we're not involved in the exercises in South
No,
Korea.
but in terms of like South Korea eventually insisting on it, even if China pushed back. I mean, are there also lessons to be learned from Poland and South Korea, other U.S. allies?
Well, I
you said?
think the I
Yeah.
think the president came
Yeah.
up with this decision independent of what's
Independent of
going
what's
on.
happening,
Yes,
okay.
independent of what's going on in South Korea. Okay, what's important is we have that capability now. I'm saying we in the area are not we in the armed forces, but we together with our
In the
treaty
region, yeah,
allies,
allies,
have
yeah.
that capability now. And the reason why also it is located there is because it's the obvious strategic importance of putting it in that certain location. It challenges their maritime and air superiority in that part of the area. What's covered in the range of that weapon system.
But I understand. I mean, that because the new narrative from our Chinese friends is that, oh, but it's just a single battery or it's just a single unit of the missiles. It's not going to make a difference. My
Okay,
understanding is
if it's only just a single battery, then what? Then why make all the fuss? Then why make all the
because they're
fuss?
scared that it's just the beginning of a new chapter, that the Philippines will be hosting even more of America's high-end systems.
Then that's feeding into their worry, and I guess
That's good.
and I guess that's good. That gives them something to think about.
But it also could be a reality, right? Again, I know these are operational details, but at least as far as the open source statement, including General Bronner, among others, is we're not only open to permanently hosting this or semi-permanent host, but down the road, we want to acquire this.
No, the thing is, we already have a similar weapon system.
Right.
We already have a similar weapon system that we just acquired this year. The
BrahMos?
BrahMos.
Yeah.
Yes. Of
But
course,
we're going to put it on the other side, right?
Depends.
Depends.
This one will still take time, ano. But the thing is, we are already
Moving in that direction.
moving towards that direction where
Yeah.
we're getting the similar weapon system, not exactly the same as what the U.S. has, but something that can, I would say, be compatible
Yeah.
and interoperable with the MRC.
My understanding is that we may also look at acquisition of the American-made systems, top of the line down the road, or at least
Okay, I have not heard of that yet, but who knows?
who knows? Yeah, well, last time I checked, there were some people saying that. I mean, I think General Bronner at some point said we want to acquire certain capabilities. I think even former General and Secretary Anyo said that at some point this is not just about us hosting American weapon systems and being great allies and friends, but it's about us also acquiring that capability. I mean, can you tell us more about the CADC? I mean, the Comprehensive Archipelagic Defense concept. Again, I'm yet to see the white paper on this, if ever we'll see that anytime soon. But what are we trying to achieve here? We discussed that earlier
Yes,
this year, but I want people to be reminded about this because now so much has happened in the past 6 months, including a new American president will come in.
Yeah, I'll be very happy to discuss that. First, let's let's go back several years.
Sure.
Okay, so when we were first starting out these exercises, we were always limited to exercising within 12 nautical miles, internal waters. Territorial waters. And for a long time, this policy by the Department of National Defense and by the DFA has never been questioned. Okay, so although we exercise within 12 nautical miles, at the back of our minds, we understood that any intrusion that comes into our territory will have to be addressed before 12 nautical miles. Of course, you have aircraft coming in.
Right.
Right. So the range of your sensing capabilities has to go beyond 12 nautical miles.
Yes.
You have to engage that threat beyond 12 nautical miles. You're not going to wait until it comes into
Right.
our
It's too late,
airspace,
yeah.
because by that time it's too late. How will you react to it? Okay, so back then when we had the new administration, kami within the exercise planning group, we decided let's ask if we can go beyond 12 nautical miles. Okay, and at the same time, our SND Secretary Gilberto Teodoro, he made this new policy
Right.
to advance a concept where we can defend beyond 12 nautical miles. So I guess it was part of it was an initiative with the Balikatan and exercise planners, and it coincided with the SND's own vision
Right.
to also start defending beyond 12 nautical miles. So that's the basic concept. It's really to extend our presence.
And also make it
extend.
360 because we're an archipelagic nation, right?
Yes,
Because a lot of our
yes.
asset is more West Philippine Sea and towards the south for maritime,
Yes,
piracy,
yes.
whatever. Yeah.
Yes. So just the other day, last November 6,
Yeah.
we held our first exercise inside the Kalayaan Island groups. You see? So although we've gone beyond 12 nautical
Right.
miles, up to that point, prior to this, we've never actually exercised within the areas of Pag-asa and
Offshore
Kota.
almost. Yeah, yeah.
Yes. So we actually did that together with the Chief of Staff, AFP, General Browner,
Yeah.
who flew in there personally, together with the commander of Western Command, Vice Admiral Torres, and with myself and two other senior generals. We got to witness a maritime and air exercise in the vicinities of Pag-asa and Kota Islands. And we did this under the very nose of the PLA,
Yeah.
the PLAN. And then before doing this, we went through several scenarios. We war-gamed several possibilities. How will they react? You see? And from there, we were able to prepare for any eventuality. If they were to react aggressively or not, we decided that we will still do this. We need to express
Yeah.
our desire to defend that area, and then we had to show them that we have the capability to unilaterally defend our islands by ourselves. And this is also the same message actually that we're also sending to our treaty allies.
Right. That we're gonna do our part.
Sinasabi natin sa kanila, kaya natin gawin to.
Yeah.
We are very much capable of doing this ourselves. You see, that in a way boosts the confidence between us and our treaty allies.
I remember just before the latest U.S. elections, I wrote a piece for Nikkei Asia about how the Philippines is doing its part, and Ambassador Romualdez, or Ambassador in Washington, also said, "We're not here to ask help; we're here to be partners, and that means doing our
Yes,
part." And
yes.
and one of the folks who had very positive response to that is former top defense official Elbridge Colby, who's now being, we had him on this show, and most likely will be in a very senior position. They're very happy that the Philippines is doing its part. In fact, the rhetoric that is coming out, because we also had the Polish foreign minister on this show, is that Philippines become like the Poland of Asia in a good way. I don't mean in the erased from map Poland.
Yeah.
I'm talking about Poland of the 21st
Yes.
century. Fastest growing economy, major arms producer,
Yes.
and a pivot player in Eastern
Yes.
Europe, not to mention the Ukraine issue, and a very capable and self-confident country. Is that a reasonable assessment? Is that something that we are also comfortable with? A country that used to be fragile, disintegrated, even in the case of Poland, but now a major force in Europe, Eastern
Yeah, well,
Europe.
I consider that a booming compliment for us to be compared to
Poland, yeah.
to Poland, and I think if for that statement to have been made, that means that we must have come a long way from what we were before.
Yeah.
When you're running a race, you're not exactly very sure how you're doing until people are actually complimenting
Right,
you
yeah.
on how you're doing so far. But now that I sort of look back, there are we have indeed come a long way.
Yep.
There were times when we were just walking on eggshells,
Yeah.
unsure of what kind of exercises are allowed, and we took a chance. We took a chance on redefining the limits of our exercises.
Yeah.
So now that we know that we can actually extend our exercises beyond what we are normally used to.
Hyperdrive is the term being used nowadays. We're in a
Yes.
hyperdrive, catch-up time for all of
Yes,
those lost
yes.
years.
And we can only improve.
Yeah.
I'm telling my people, in the exercise planning community, whatever it is that we're doing now, is enabling the future.
Yeah.
Because if we cannot execute an exercise the way we want to now, that will provide the limitation for future planners.
Yeah.
You see, so the hardest part is really to do this for the first time. Okay, can we do a live fire? We've never done that before. Okay, that's the reason why we have to do it, because we've never done that before. That means we do it once. The next iterations of this exercise can only be improvements on what we've done. We've never done an exercise in the Calayan Island groups. We do it once, and then the next iterations, they will have to build upon what we've done.
Right.
See, so this is not the end game. Doing exercises in particular areas, to do them despite the risks involved and to continuously push the envelope is actually helping the future generations of
Yeah.
building upon what we've actually done.
Laying down the foundation and also the momentum. Again, obviously, this is not necessarily within your pay grade, but how do you see the bilateral relationship with the U.S. going now with the new leadership more or less clear? Who's going to be the next president?
Good question. I've also been asking that question with my Balikatan counterparts, and they've assured me that nothing's going to change.
Right, there's nothing for the worse. I mean, if there's going to be change, maybe for the better.
Well, this is not going to be Trump's first administration.
Yeah.
We had Trump as president before, and we still had exercises with him as their commander in chief. Okay, so but I'm not speaking of speculation.
Yeah.
Because I'm just speaking out of what we actually know.
Yeah.
So we've done this. It's not new.
Yep.
We've done this in the past. Why would you expect it to change in the future? That is where I'm
Well,
coming
expect
from.
for better even. I mean,
Yes.
if you have O'Brien and a couple of other people who may still end up in, I mean, former National Security Advisor of Trump saying,
Yes.
you should help Philippines as much as almost we're helping other countries like Israel.
Yes,
We're
because
talking-
at the end of the day,
yeah.
we're not talking about just one person. We're talking about an entire bureaucracy.
exactly. A team.
And you're talking about a foreign policy of the United States that at the end of the day, it's still going to be bipartisan.
Right.
You see, because the moment the United States wants to exit this part of the region, it's like telling the world we no longer want to be a superpower.
Yeah.
And I don't think the United States is going to go through that. Go in that
Any
direction.
party can accept that. Any major party. Can
Yes,
accept it.
no. I mean, no party will want the United States not to be a hegemon, at least not part of that region. But that's my appreciation. So I don't expect things to change drastically in as far as bilateral relations are concerned. At least not in the
Medium term.
area of defense.
Right.
Not in the area of defense, because this serves our interest, the Philippine interest, and also serves theirs. And this is the commonality that we see.
And of course, the thing with President Trump always is, we're not here in the business of charity. You have to do your part. There has to be burden
We are
shared.
doing our part.
And that's what you're saying.
Yeah,
we're
we
confident.
are doing our part.
Yeah.
You know, I mean, this is not the Balikatan of old when it is just a one-way deal, and we are the recipients of the training. Now we have very much a lot to offer in this two-way deal with the Americans. So yes, I would say that we are living up to our part of the bargain.
The other country that is emerging as very important to us is Japan. We had not long after our previous conversation, you had the first ever trilateral summit. I call it JAFUS, Japan, Philippines, US. I mean, it rhymes well with AUKUS. And Japan also finalized an RRA, Reciprocal Access Agreement, with us. It looks like there's a lot of appetite in Japan to play a more active role from former Prime Minister Kishida. Some of the senior advisors of the current administration are even talking about Japan playing a more primary role, taking care of its own interests, working with allies. I was in Tokyo also earlier this year, and there's always this emphasis about like-minded players like the Philippines. Where do you see things going with Japan, for instance? Are they emerging as the other major security
but
partner?
it all depends on their senior leadership. Because I engage with their military delegations.
Right.
But Do you see when we engage with them, they always defer back to their policymakers.
Yeah.
So unless there is a clear articulation of policy on how far they can go with respect to joining the exercises, they are not willing to speak beyond that. Okay.
But
So
we
they
have had like first ever
No.
aerial exercises with Japan 3 years ago.
Yeah.
2018, first time that they send an armored vehicle unit since the end of Second World War. There's some they give us, they're helping us with our ISR,
Yeah,
domain awareness.
yes, but to take part in an actual exercise, that's a different matter.
Different matter.
That's
Yeah.
a different matter because when we do exercise Balikatan, we are rehearsing
For-
a certain
For
scenario.
war, yeah.
Yes, precisely. I cannot speak beyond that because
course, of
that
course.
actually speaks to why the Japanese are also very careful to committing what they want, what they can provide in the exercise.
And what about other countries? We mentioned France a while ago. We had the German defense minister here earlier. We're seeing a lot of interest from a lot of other countries. Not to
Yes,
mention
yes.
also India. How are things going on there? Because we talked a lot about U.S. and Philippines strengthening the bilateral relationship, but at the same time, you're seeing this massive acceleration
Yes,
in our defense relationship with other countries.
yeah, because you're not putting all your eggs in one basket. You have to understand that a lot of countries have interest in South China Sea and West Philippine Sea, primarily because of the presence of the sea lines of communication.
Yeah.
You see, the world's economy. This is
Archery,
the lifeblood of the world's economy is in
Yeah.
this area. So naturally, what affects this part of the globe affects the economies of the entire world. So their interests in this area are primarily for their own interests, and that's where we see commonalities with these countries. So if you notice, okay, France, they're on the other side of the world, right? But they're very much interested in this part of the region, and they are willing to send participation to the exercise, which we will gladly accommodate them.
And in terms of modernization of the armed forces, we're discussing the third horizon. We have been having this conversation for quite some time. But what are the things we're supposed to look forward to in terms of acquisitions and focus? I mean, you have an army background, but obviously, logically, for an archipelagic nation, the focus should be on Navy, Air Force, among others, because that's the area also that we
Yes,
quite
yes.
neglected for quite some time.
Yeah.
What are we looking at here in the third horizon? I mean, we are looking at numbers of billions of dollars, tens of billions of dollars over the next 10 years,
Yeah, well,
which
well,
we can afford because we're a huge
Yes, well,
economy right now.
naturally, I will say that a lot of this will have to go to our maritime capabilities.
Yes.
Yes, because it's the domain it's that particular domain that we have to improve upon. So it's not just the maritime domain, but also in the air domain. So most of the modernization projects are already looking at improving both for the Navy and also for the Air Force. And I won't go into the details on what we're
Yeah,
actually
I can see the
on what
the hesitation.
particular acquisitions
Yes,
that we have on
they're
the
still
pipeline.
Those are still under consideration. Last point, cybersecurity seems to be also a very important issue. Hybrid warfare is something that we're seeing all over the place, especially with Russians showing really the sharp edge of their hybrid warfare capability. Obviously, with China, everyone's talking about influence operations, sharp power, hybrid warfare. We had guests from the Department of the ICT, for instance, telling us about deepfake, that there's suspicions that China-based elements are involved in at least amplifying, if not generating, a lot of cheap fake, deep fake stuff, targeting even our head of state, trying to make us look as if we're the warmonger. And this is going to get worse as the election comes in. So that is our expectation. From an armed force of the Philippines standpoint, how important it is for us to get the cybersecurity question right, and again, to the degree that you can share with us, how far are we moving to meet the challenge on hand?
We've already accepted that when we go into understanding the operational environment, we are not just considering the physical domain, but we're also considering, we're also paying attention to the non-physical domain. So
Yeah.
what is that? It's informational warfare, the information environment, and that also includes the cyberspace, because that's where information operations thrive.
Right.
Okay, so even several years ago, we've already incorporated cyber defense into the one of the main
Right.
exercise events. Okay, so we have to get our people, and actually the entire leadership of the armed forces are already paying attention to this. Okay, so we have instituted certain certain safeguards,
Right.
even among ourselves. So there are ways wherein we want to prevent leaks into the
Mhm.
cyber domain, and also into the informational domain.
Right.
Okay, so it takes discipline on the side of the individual soldier, understanding how by his lack of knowledge of the effects of the cyberspace, they can actually be the leak themselves.
Yeah.
So we are spreading
Hygiene.
this.
You
Yes,
need hygiene.
yes,
Yeah.
we're spreading this
Yeah.
awareness among our people and instituting certain safeguards. Okay, so that we do not fall into this trap, because it can be from an institutional level. The threat can hit us at the institutions, or it can hit us as in the individual level. So both of these things we have to address, and we've been doing a lot of exercises already for the past several years, not only in informational warfare and also but also in cyber warfare.
Last point. Again, quite sensitive, but I think we have to ask this: how professional is the Armed Forces of the Philippines? Because there was a lot of worry about, I won't say infiltration, but politicization of civil-military relations under the former president, who had radically different stance on issues and all. Um, how far has the AFP come in making sure that they insulate themselves from undue influence, whether from outside or from interested
Yeah,
domestic
I
players?
think we have had a good success story on that particular
Professionalization of AFP, yeah.
area. Yes, because when we are already making that shift to external defense, I'm not saying that we are going to leave behind internal security. Uh, the shift to external defense will, in a way, insulate us from local partisan politics,
Yep.
because there's certain things about ISO
Yes.
that that is closely related to local politics. That when you're already paying attention to external defense, these variables do not hold that much influence into external defense. So that means if we are focused on external defense, it does not matter what particular politics come into play,
Yeah.
because the mandate is very clear. This is our universally accepted mandate anyway.
Yep.
So it does not matter who becomes our civilian masters.
Right.
Ito yung aming bread and butter.
And constitutional duty.
Yes, of course.
And constitutional duty. On that very reassuring point, thank you very much and congratulations, General Mike Loico,
Thank you very
for
much.
that comprehensive discussion. We really appreciate it. It's always great to have folks from your part of the government to. I know it's a sensitive issue, but I think the public, the people who are watching this show, have to also have some basic understanding of these important issues. Catch us again next week here on One News. You can also check out the long conversation on Spotify and YouTube. I'm Richard Hidarian, and that was The View from Manila. We're One News, all sides, all the time.